Greetings, Willow here again with another lesson in tarot. Today I want to touch on a few different things. First off, I wanted to remind you that if you don't already have one, you should get yourself a journal, a notebook, something where you can write down notes about tarot and make it so that it will be something that is specific to tarot reading. You're going to use this, you're going to keep notes in it, you're going to write down your emotions, your feelings, questions you're asking the tarot. You might want to start taking notes so you can memorize the meanings of the cards a little quicker, maybe based on what you see or what you feel, because that's important as well. You can read a book, but you can't get everything that you need out of the book. It gives you some reference, but it's not everything. So it is important that you have some notes that you can fall back on, just in case you need to jog your memory a bit. It's great to learn all the cards. Tarot is a wonderful tool to have for divination, but you always need to remember that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That's really what tarot is about. So you can pull a few cards and you go, oh, that means that means that, and that means that. And that's great. That doesn't give you the whole thing. When I lay out a spread of cards, I already see the whole picture. It just comes to me like I know what I'm supposed to say. I know what my guides are saying. This is what you need to relay to that client. So it's very important that you understand that you need to know, depending on where cards lay, how their meaning might change based on the question, how you might get different meanings for that same card. So it's important to understand memorizing is great, but there's so much more to tarot. It has to do with your intuition. You don't have to be a psychic medium, but you have to use your intuition and you have to believe what your own guides are saying to you when you're doing a reading. So that's part of it. So the tarot notebook or the journal that you keep is going to be very good at seeing where you started and where you end up. And you can go back and have that as reference. So today I want to start by talking about the suits of the tarot and what they mean. So first, we want to talk about the four suits. First, we have Pentacles that represents earth energies. So when we see that, when we think of earth, it's the material things of life. That's going to be anything like your money, your home, your property, belongings, but also your health and well-being. Sometimes I just say it's anything that makes you feel safe and secure in the physical world. So that would be all of those. So the second one we want to talk about is swords. Swords is the east. So I should have said north, earth. East is the air. And that's the swords. So when we look at swords, we're looking at communication and we're looking at the mind and how we think and how we perceive things. So when we think about that, well, how do you communicate to people? Well, how do you present yourself? Are you thinking before you speak? All of those will come into play when you look at swords. The next thing you want to look at are the wands. That is our south or fire energy. Now, when we look at fire, we are looking at career, business, our projects we're working on, also our spirit. I look at it as spiritual endeavors and spiritual opportunities and spiritual work. So that's the fire, the wands. And then finally, we look at the cups. The cups are our emotion. That's the west energy. That's our emotion. That is the water. It's very fluid. You may find that when you do some readings, when you're asked a question about somebody's love life, you're going to get a lot of cups, or you might get a lot of swords, depending on what the situation is. But you're going to realize that these different suits have special meaning. Now, it's interesting as well because based on the question, what if you had a question about love? Am I going to ever meet the right person in the next 6 months? You might end up with an Ace of Pentacles. Well, Pentacles, that's earth energy. That's safety and security. But does that mean love? Well, you have to see what that number means as well. So we're going to go over the numbers as well as the suits. Okay. So let's start, since I've talked about the suits and the energies that are represented by them, I want to now go over the different numbers and how they correspond. So when we look at our aces, like the Ace of Pentacles, Ace of Swords, Ace of Wands, or the Ace of Cups, we are looking at new beginnings, new opportunities. It's great cards. Sometimes we love to know, is there something new coming? Is it love? Is it business? Is it money? Am I going to have a new spiritual enlightenment or something come up? So those are really good things to know about. But the aces are our number one, new beginnings and opportunities. The next one we're going to go to are our twos. Now, twos represent balance, decision making, coming to the crossroads, choices. So we have that in the Pentacles, the Swords, the Wands, and the Cups. Now, if you look at this and you go, okay, so that would be choices in that situation. So it could be choices in love. Do you choose this person or that person, or not to be in the relationship at all? Do you come to the crossroads and have to make a decision? Do I take this job or do I stay where I'm at? Maybe with the Swords, you're trying to come up with an idea, but you're not seeing the picture. Clearly, you can see there's a blindfold on this person, and so they may have to go within to find the answer. And then finally, we have the Pentacles. Okay, well, are we juggling a lot? Are we trying to balance everything out? Maybe we're taking way too much on our plate. Maybe we have to make some decisions to kind of do some more organization, or maybe put some stuff on the back burner. So the twos, that's what that represents. Okay. So now let's go to the threes. Now the threes have always been one of those things where, to me, each card just makes its own meaning. So I like to look at the threes, and they can be the full expression of the suit for one. So if I looked at this Three of Pentacles, I see that as teamwork, and I see it as accomplishment in your area of expertise or what your gifts are. I usually will tell a client, it looks like you're really giving some effort over this next period of time to what you're good at, and you need to continue to hone your skills that way. But what if you got that Three of Swords? Now the Three of Swords, that sadness, heartbreak, and loss, that would be the swords in its full expression. So that means that maybe you have to have a period of healing. What if we go to the Three of Wands? Now, to me, this Three of Wands, the ship is coming in, but you have to also be patient. So when you see this, you're going to go, okay, ship's going to come in. It's fruition. It's the full expression of that suit of wands, but at the same time, you got to have some patience in there. And then what about this wonderful Three of Cups? I love this card. And the Three of Cups is about celebration, accomplishment. You've done it. You got what your heart desired. So with the threes, it's just a little trickier. So you will pick up what they mean to you. And I think that's more important than what just the book would tell you. Okay. Now we come to the fours. Okay. So first we have the Four of Pentacles. Now, fours are about stability. They are about balance, of course, because of the stability, but also structure. But sometimes it's also relating to stagnation. So if you had a Four of Pentacles, for instance, you might see, oh, I'm stable in my money. Things are good, but stable doesn't mean abundant. Stable means you're breaking even, right? So what if we go on to the Four of Swords? When this happens, things might not be moving very fast. Maybe you need to take some time to meditate and contemplate for a bit, and then you'll figure out what the next move might be. Then we come out here to this Four of Wands. And when you have a Four of Wands, what do you see? I see celebration, accomplishment. I see that you're creating a very strong foundation for your future because of your hard work. And then finally, we have the Four of Cups. Now, sometimes with this Four of Cups, we are sitting just idly, wishfully thinking. We don't really see all the blessings that are right there in front of our face. So that can be a little stagnation. You're not really going anywhere. So that's how you have to start to look at the cards. Everything is going to have its own meaning based on its suit and on the number. Okay. Now the fives. When we come to fives, we are looking at challenges. Sometimes we're looking at a little chaos, sometimes loss. But it also opens up for opportunities for change. So Five of Pentacles, that's generally some challenges in maybe the money area or even health. But it could also be some loss in those areas as well. But there's a bright side to every card. So you can't just look at it as face value. Remember that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So what's next to it? So when we get into spreads, you're going to be looking at that kind of thing too. And then we have the Five of Swords. Now, Five of Swords is challenges, but it's also some victory based on the words that you use. So that is challenge, but good stuff that comes out of it. We have the Five of Wands. Challenges aren't bad, guys. So when I look at the fives, I don't really always see bad stuff, especially like the Five of Wands. That's challenge. I like to challenge myself to be better at what I'm doing. So sometimes I might go a little bit beyond my comfort zone and take that challenge, but you grow from challenges. They're not obstacles. There's a difference between an obstacle and a challenge. Challenges make you grow. Obstacles are like big brick walls, or like the Great Wall of China that's really hard to get over or around. And then finally, the Five of Cups. Now this can be sadness and loss, but you also have to remember the picture of this five. Look, you still have cups behind you, and just because the cups are spilled in front of you doesn't mean there's not blessings still to come. So that would be the opportunities for changes. So let's move on to the six. We're looking at communication. We're looking at some problem solving. And we're also looking at just basically good stuff with, I love the sixes. So I'm going to start with the Six of Pentacles. Now the Six of Pentacles, I see that as having enough to share with others. It's also called the card of the, what's the word I'm looking for? When you're giving to somebody and you have enough to share, basically. The word will come to me in a moment, I'm sure of it. Now, we also have the Six of Cups. Now, this is one of my favorite cards. Six of Cups, communication, harmony with those people that you are close to. That's why I really love it. It's cooperation, you know, it's good stuff. We also have the Six of Wands. Now, that's some victory and following through and integrity and good communication as well. So that's what the Six of Wands would mean. But then we have the Six of Swords. Now, the Six of Swords, what do you see in this? What do you see in the imagery? Your cards may be different if you have a different kind of deck, but you're still probably going to see a boat and some swords. And what does a boat do? It moves. And so you may be moving away from troubled waters. You may be, letting go of some things you don't need anymore, so that, you're moving into a better place. So that would also be some movement, but it's also about cooperation and problem solving. And if you get rid of the stuff that's in the way, you've solved some problems, right? We're going to move on now to the sevens. So with the sevens, this is assessment. It is also reflection. We sometimes have to reflect on things. And also motives, because sometimes we may ask ourselves, why is someone doing that? Why would I do that? and you may have reasons for that. Let's look at the Seven of Pentacles, for instance. The Seven of Pentacles, well, why would I work so hard? Well, to get a good harvest. I mean, look at all that reward on that tree, right? So you may be looking for a good reward at the end of all your hard work. But you might also need to assess how you're progressing on whatever you're working on so that you make sure you get the good harvest. Okay, so it's a twofold type of situation. Now, when we look at the Seven of Swords, let's just take it as face value with this guy. I always look at him as the thief or sabotage card. Sometimes I see that it's outside sabotage or influence that's causing some issues, but sometimes I also see it could be like self-sabotage. But it's motives. Why would they do that? Why are they hurting me? You know, what do they have to gain? Then we have the Seven of Wands. Now, when we have a Seven of Wands, I see standing our ground on our decisions. But what's your motive? Is it because you're being stubborn, or is it because you truly believe in what your choice is? So you have to look at that and you have to reflect on it. Why am I standing my ground so firmly? Being stubborn in some ways. Then we have the Seven of Cups. Now that can be a lot of assessment. You might have different things, different opportunities in front of you, different choices that are there. And what do you need to do? What is your best choice? So that's sometimes what that means. And you might have to reflect on each one of those. You also might ask, well, why would I do it? Is it out of lust or is it out of love? That kind of question might come up with your Seven of Cups. Moving on to the Eights. Eights are movement cards. So if somebody says, am I moving? Am I going to be changing jobs? Am I moving? And any of the eights come up, that's generally a good indication that yes, they probably will be. But let's take a look at it because it's a movement, action, change, and also power card. So eights are really good cards, really important to remember. Eight of Pentacles. If we look at this, first off, what are we looking at? Earth energy, right? Pentacles, got to go back to the suit. The pentacles are earth energies. That's how we make our money, right? That's the movement of money, movement of making it. But also it's how you hone your skills to be better at your craft so that maybe you can make more money, earn more money. Maybe you're going to go back to school. That's one of those. And it's also communication, like teacher-student card as well. So that's some movement as well. Then we go to the Eight of Swords. Now, when we look at an Eight of Swords, you can see that clearly this person has put themselves kind of in their own little prison, their own little space. And it's kind of like a wall of protection around them. Don't come near me, you're going to get cut by the sword, right? So when we look at that, this would be more inaction rather than action. If it's reversed, I usually see that the wall has dropped and the energies will start to flow again. But once again, why? What's the motive? Maybe you've been hurt, so you're trying to protect yourself. But you also look at the power you have. If you are in a bubble, you are in control. Nobody's going to hurt you that way. But you're also not going to get all the opportunities that might be coming your way. The Eight of Wands is a lot of rapid movement. Notice they're flying through the air, but are they focused? You have to make sure you're hitting your target. So what is the motive? You can throw a lot of energy into something, but if you're not really focused on what you want to attain, you're kind of wasting your time. But once again, that's a movement card. So if somebody's going to, ask me if they're going to move or change jobs, I'd say, yep, more than likely. Now, what about the Eight of Cups? When we see this, remember, cups are emotional cards, but it is movement. So sometimes you're just walking away from everything that has hurt you. You're walking away from that toxic relationship, that bad job, that uncomfortable situation, and you're moving into something much better. So eights are, once again, movement, power, and action. Let's move to our nines. Okay. Pentacles. what do we see with nines? We are seeing fruition and attainment. Well, what are pentacles? Pentacles are material cards, right? The earth energy. So we're looking at that suit. We're looking at our money, belongings, property. We're looking at our health and well-being. If we've been sick and we get this card, finally, maybe we're starting to feel better. We're getting healthy again. But if we've worked really hard, maybe we're going to get that promotion finally. So that's why we're looking at both the number and the suit. Now, what if somebody said, I want to know if my relationship will end, well, will I get engaged, for instance? You might see this card come up. Well, it's not a cup, but it's attainment. It's getting their wish fulfilled. So you're still looking at the suit, but you're looking at the number. So you have to look at both of those. Not just the number, not just the suit, and not just being tunnel visioned in the question at hand. Now, what about the Nine of Swords? Now, Nine of Swords, you don't really get a lot of achievement, but you have to look at this card because this is one of those tricky ones. The Nine of Swords, you aren't really doing well because you're worrying so much. You're worrying, you're overthinking. It may cause some sleepless nights or restlessness, anxiety, and stress. So if you want this fruition and attainment that you desire, that has to be something you work on. So it still has to do with it, but it would be something you need to work on. Nine of Wands. Okay. When we see a Nine of Wands, we are seeing that we're finally done. That was a tough fight. But at the same time, what if it didn't turn out exactly the way we expected it to? Still got to look at the positive, right? Got to look at what you did achieve and that it is over, because that's the important part of that card. And the Nine of Cups, getting what your heart desires, having good support around you, knowing that your family supports you. It's great. You've achieved what you wanted and everybody's ready to celebrate it. So your heart finally got what it wanted. Okay. So let's move on to the final card of numbers. And that would be our tens. And pardon me, I'm going to take a sip of tea because my throat's starting to crack on me. All right, so we're looking now at the 10. The 10 of Pentacles, that is great. We are looking at completion and the end of a cycle. So when we see a 10 of Pentacles, that is great. That means you finally got your abundance. You finally got what you really, really wanted. And it's now over and you got what you want. On to the next task, right? Because just because you're done with one doesn't mean you're not on to the next. 10 of Swords. Scary card. Swords in the person's back. But it's the ending of the chaos. It's the ending of the drama. It's the ending of it. So it's dead. It's done. It's over with. Okay, let's move on to the 10 of Wands. Now, the 10 of Wands, you may be carrying some stress, but the stress is now getting very close to being done. Or maybe it is finished finally. So even though you still feel a little weighed down, you know the task is finished. And now you can start to relax and move on to the next. And then, of course, the happiest card, the 10 of Cups. We get everything our heart desires, the happy home card, the marriage card. We see all this happiness and joy in this card. So when you're doing a reading, always remember, you have to take a look at both the suit that it is in and the number of the card. But also, don't just get stuck on that. What is your gut telling you? What is your guides speaking to you in your head? Think about it. I always say, if I'm hearing a different voice in my head, I know it's not just me being silly. I know it's my guides telling me something. So it is important that you learn both the numbers and the suits. And next time we're going to get into court cards and understanding what those mean for you. in the different suits. And also, we're going to be moving on past that. After the suits, we're going to go, or after the court cards, we're going to be going into the Major Arcana in the next video coming up after. It'll be the second one after this. So you're going to go, we're doing the numbers, we did the suits, then we're going to be doing the court cards in the suits, and then finally in the next video after that, we're going to move on to the Major Arcana. And I know you're itching to get started. And you know what? You can go ahead and try. If you want to do something real simple, why don't you just shuffle your cards and pull 3 cards and ask a yes or no question. That is the easiest spread. If you get 2 upright, it's a yes, or it's a maybe. If it's 3 upright, it's a definite yes. 2 reversed, possibly no, maybe. 3 reversed is a no. So just try that. Go back and forth and just ask some questions and see what kind of answers you get. Ask questions that you know the answer to. And that will also kind of work as a practice for you until next time. Okay? So I hope this has been a little bit of a help for you when you're learning tarot. And until next time, be blessed.